Hello and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who'd like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, I'm Tom Dillon, and with me today is my co-host and business partner, Helen Leathers. We do that at the same time every time, don't we? People will start to think it's a recording.
Yeah, it's not, because you quite often mess my name up.
I do quite often mess it up. How are you today, Helen?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
I'm going to be Wonder Woman today.
You're Wonder
again.
Woman. Do you remember what Wonder Woman was?
Wonder Woman was focused, but I think Wonder Woman is wonderful and can be anything she wants to be.
For those who may have not listened to our previous episodes where we've shared superheroes, I have a mood board that contains an array of superheroes and an emotion that goes along with them. Not that Wonder Woman is always focused, which is the one that I choose, but in that picture, she's focused. So what am I today? I'm Catwoman today.
Oh, really?
Now, just to clarify.
Oh, God. I hope none of our listeners are actually visual people.
Just to clarify. In the image, Catwoman, she's quite chilled. So it's just all's well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
All's well.
As I lounge here in a Catwoman outfit. Okay, moving swiftly on. Listeners' questions. We like a Q&A. We do, yes.
Yeah. And we have some questions from listeners.
Brilliant. Good job, really, isn't it?
I don't know where else they'd have come from, but we have had some listeners send some in, so we'll crack on.
Yes.
So our first question is from Belinda, who is a former student of our Transformational Coaching Diploma. Loved her learning on the Transformational Coaching Diploma. Is a raving fan. I'm putting words in her mouth now. But she loved the course, but she's interested to know how we would advise her, what suggestions we have for continuing professional development, how you go about choosing the appropriate CPD.
What a really great question.
That is a good question.
Really good question. And I've got some pointers.
Oh, good.
I've got some pointers.
I have nothing.
Okay. I'm sure you will have something to contribute.
I'll contribute along the way.
So, firstly, I think, obviously, we know that coaching is an unregulated industry. And I would just like to point out that so is CPD. Now, depending on your role, obviously in the medical world, you're going to have very specific forms of CPD and very specific providers. In the world of CPD, I think people expect there to be an organisation that accredits or awards points or something like that. And there are some organisations like that, but it's not a regulated industry. And if we look at the requirements for the Association for Coaching accreditation process, they require us to do a certain amount of CPD, but it can be anything that is going to improve your professionality, improve your knowledge. It doesn't have to be provided by any particular organisation or provider. The ICF are a little bit more strict on that, as I understand it, but generally speaking, if you see CPD points or a CPD logo, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be right for you, shall we say. You don't have to have
do
that.
other things that don't have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've just been away on a course for the weekend. No one's mentioned CPD. It's a very professional course, but I've done it for my own learning. It will form part of my CPD.
Yes.
But I'm not asking anyone for points and saying, oh, can I have...
No. For accreditation purposes, we provide all our students with CPD certificates for our events and our workshops and our conferences. And it says, this is how long you spent with us at this event, and this was the purpose of the event. So you've got some documentation. So that's just a little bit about CPD. In terms of choosing what you want to do, I think I would always say pick a topic that you're really, really interested in, you really love, or that you want to know more about. So something that really draws you in, because obviously you'll then have the desire and the motivation to do it. And it is hard sometimes. I've chosen courses and then thought, oh my goodness, this is not what I wanted, or it's not what I thought it was going to be. So I think asking for recommendations from other people is always a good start. And again, it might be different for you. Everyone's got different ways of judging these things. But I think recommendations is really a good way to go. And I think expectation is important as well. So I always go into any new learning with the precept that I will learn something. And if you remember on the coaching demo that we did, and I talked about a yoga teacher training course that I went on, I went in with into that with the opinion that I would learn something. And what I learned was that course wasn't right for me. So I found another course. And there was lots of other reflective learning around it as well. So there'll always be something that you can take from anything. And I think that having that frame of thinking is really useful. And we offer CPD workshops. People know who we are when they've worked with us and often come back for our CPD workshops and conferences throughout the year because they know us. So
Our podcasts
also. So it might well be that you can go to people you've already trained with previously and you'll have an idea of what to expect and that you get on with them and that kind of thing. And actually listening to our podcast is classed as CPD.
Good.
Yes.
I had no doubt. It is, isn't it?
Of course it is. Any learning that you do. Yeah. Even reading a textbook on a particular topic would be CPD because you're learning and adding to your skills and knowledge. So definitely go for something you love or are drawn to explore, ask for recommendations and go with that precept that you will always learn. There will always be something that you can take from it.
Yeah, and I guess what we don't know in Belinda's question is whether she meant formal CPD with certificate attached or whether she just meant her continuing professional development as a coach.
Yeah.
So I take a very... one of my values is learning, so I'm constantly doing that anyway. So I don't have to stop and think how many hours CPD I'm doing. I'm just constantly immersed in learning something new. But yeah, I think that idea of doing something and it being useful in some way is a good philosophy to have in hindsight if you've been on a course that hasn't met your expectations.
Yeah.
But I think if you do due diligence ahead of time and do talk to other people and get some sense of what's going to go on. So I've just done a course this weekend was totally not what I thought it was going to be. But I'd just gone by their blurb on the website. I enjoyed the course. I was away for the weekend, totally immersed in it. But they didn't actually fulfill the brief. So they told me what it was going to be. About mid-morning of the second morning, I was getting a bit impatient to move on to some more learning, and it wasn't moving on. And I did flag that up and said, I'm noticing that I'm impatient for some more. And the lady in question did say, I think I need to change the brief. I need to change the wording because that's not what we do anymore. So that's, there is something, a degree to which the course was missold in that sense. I was happy because I did some good learning and it was an immersive experience for me. But it could be that if I'd spoken to other people that had done the course, they could have given me an insight into what was actually going on that course. Yeah,
so maybe looking for testimonials and something that we've not done up until now with our courses is Google reviews, actually. We might have to start and do that. But oftentimes you'll see people have Google reviews, whether they're embedded on the course or you can look them up.
Yeah, so Trustpilot as well.
Trustpilot. And obviously we do video testimonials and often have written testimonials on our website. And we know that people look at that to find other people's thoughts.
So I think in answer to Belinda's question, it is finding something that's of interest that is going to hold your attention.
Yes.
Because there is that motivation to fulfill the course. If it's a 6-month long course, then you need to know that you're going to stick with it. But then to do your due diligence, look for the testimonials, look for the reviews. Make sure, maybe have a conversation with the organisation to say, can you tell me exactly what's involved? I just want to clarify that it's right for me. Because we wouldn't want anyone on our course. We wouldn't want people to come and then be dissatisfied with what they got.
Not
I think
at all.
we're quite transparent in what we deliver. And hopefully other people will want that, to get that transparency across as well.
Absolutely. And I think now might be a good point to mention that actually we've had such demand for ongoing CPD that we have launched an advanced diploma.
We have
for
advanced
our
transformational coaching diploma.
for our doctors who've completed their training on our first diploma. They can now participate in an extension course of around 6 to 9 months, which leads to a higher qualification and accreditation with the Association for Coaching.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we've got our first cohort running in January, and we're almost full on that cohort. So there's obviously that appetite for CPD, which we knew there was anyway, but it's just been finding the right vehicle to satisfy that ongoing development for coaches. So we think we've found the right fit now.
Absolutely.
So very excited about that.
So
Good. Let's have another question.
Let's have another question. Okay. Well, we have a question in from Penelope, which isn't hugely dissimilar to Belinda's question, but it's more specific. And because she asked us, how do you go about choosing a coach training course?
Okay. Good. Yeah, and so some of those things will apply. So finding a course online where the syllabus appeals to you, that what they're offering seems to be a good fit for what you want out of the course, but then also doing your due diligence. So looking at the testimonials that they have. I think we do quite well because we have video testimonials. It's not just words on the screen, which, theoretically you could make up, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But we do have people actually talking about their experience of being on the course. And I think that's really important to hear from other people that have actually gone through the process. So that's good.
I think there's one thing that we both think is very important about coach training, and that is very much getting down to the practicalities of coaching and having the opportunity to coach, to be observed, and to be provided with feedback on your coaching skills. So if you're doing an online-only course where none of that's happening, that perhaps might give you an introduction to coaching, but I don't think it should be your only training to coach in coaching.
You can't learn to coach by not practicing.
Yes, you'd be surprised what's out there.
Yeah, and I know that we've certainly had people that have come to us saying, I've already done some coaching training. I did it online and it was just a self-study course. And you can get, when I first started coaching, I read some books. I picked something up from that, but you don't learn to coach by just listening to theory or being exposed to theory. You have to get in there and do some coaching. And I think for some people, there's that slight resistance to that exposure of being at the beginning and that being comfortable with being uncomfortable about not being accomplished in your new skill. But I think that's the most important, the most essential element of a coach training program, that they give you that opportunity to regularly coach, be coached, because you're going to learn from being coached as well, but also receiving feedback from the tutors, from the peers. There will be a criteria for what the coaching is supposed to look like, best practice. So everyone can give you feedback on how you're beating those expectations. But to really embed the coaching skills, there has to be lots of practice.
And time. So you're not going to embed those skills in a 2-day course. No. And like I say, all learning is useful. So it could give you I did do one of those online courses years ago, and it was just theory.
Yeah. It's funny. So it's something we mentioned in our NLP podcast that we did a few episodes ago, was that idea of modelling and seeing how someone else does it well. So I think there is that element of it in coaching, that if you see it, and we model our coaching, we do demonstrations of how we coach, so people can see but you can't embed that for yourself without doing the practice.
Yes.
And I'm not suggesting, there's that idea of Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours to mastery, that you've got to put 10,000 hours in before you can be a master. But certainly you can be competent and confident to coach at the end of a 6-month course if you've done the practice over that time. But there has to be that regular practice in order to embed the skills, and the regular feedback as well. Hopefully that doesn't put people off, being told you've got to practice regularly.
Well, hopefully not. No. But
it's like learning
important.
the piano. You've got to do your scales and arpeggios, haven't you?
Yes.
I laugh because my granddaughter's into the Aristocats at the moment, so we have the song from the Aristocats called Scales and Arpeggios, which is constantly in our heads through regular
repeated exposure.
repeated exposure. And ironically, whilst I was away at the weekend, I was staying in London in some halls of residence and was woken up at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning with someone practicing their scales and arpeggios for an hour and a half. So practice is important. There was that element of me that thought, no, he's entitled to practice, or he or she is entitled to practice their scales and arpeggios.
Absolutely.
I'd rather it wasn't at 7 o'clock in the morning. Good. What else do we need to say about choosing a training program, a coaching training program?
I think also looking for something that's accredited.
Yes.
And there are some less known governing bodies, and I'm using it, air quotes for that, that you might see courses accredited by. If it's a coach training course, I personally believe it should be with the AC, the EMCC or the ICF accreditation, because they are global organisations. Obviously the EMCC is European, but they are very experienced. They've been around a long time, they've got the structures in place, and they are recognised as well. So for coach training, go with a training course that's accredited by one of the big three.
Yeah, and probably useful to mention ILM, only in the sense that our experience of people having been through the ILM process, and ILM are a qualification body, so they license people to run ILM courses. So the quality of the course is going to depend on the quality of the provider. But the structure of ILM is very much around being able to write about coaching. So lots of essays to justify why coaching exists within organisations. So the ILM is a sort of break off from the Institute of Leadership and Management. So it's really been designed by management professionals. So there is that leaning towards an organisational context, but also a leaning towards being able to justify within an organisation. So all I want to say is my experience of people going through that process is that they spend very little time practicing coaching and lots of time writing essays about coaching. And that's not how you learn to coach. So for those who have done ILM 5 or ILM 7, I'm sure you're a very good coach, but for me, it doesn't quite fit the bill in terms of giving people exposure to practicing coaching whilst they're training.
Yeah.
It's just our experience, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully there's some key points there to help you choose a training course. And if you want to have a chat with us about ours, you're more than welcome to get in touch.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. We have some courses coming up in the new year.
We do.
So it would be lovely to hear from you. So I think that'll do for today.
I think that will do. Next time on the
Thank you.
podcast, we are going to be interviewing someone.
A doctor who is also a coach.
I think so.
Yes. We have no idea who it is yet, have we?
No, we don't.
But we will be interviewing a coaching doctor next time. So we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.